brilliance of Grandmaster Bruce Lee was how he broke down the science of hand-to-hand combat. The ABCs, ABA as he called it, attack by attack. The preemptive strike, ABB, attack by blast. Combinations, that is. ABC, attack by counter. Intercepting, namely countering, throwing after the opponent throws, but landing before he lands. And ABD, attack by draw. Creating a hole, drawing the opponent in, baiting him in by pretending we're open, and then closing a gate and countering. So by breaking down these 4 different phases of hand-to-hand combat, of 2 people striking each other with fists, and everything that can happen in that exchange. Somebody throwing, somebody shelling up and throwing back, somebody throwing the other person, landing more economically and countering by landing first. So he broke down all the different phases and literally, geometrically and scientifically broke down all the sectors of the body into gates so that we could understand where we were open and where attacks would come, what angles they would come in. This was the brilliance of Grandmaster Bruce Lee. Not only was he culturally a hero to people regardless of their age, gender, race, not only did he help to break down those stereotypes and those barriers and those repressions that we held so dear for so many centuries, but he also had this fascination with martial arts, which he was a grandmaster of, which he was brilliant at, and effective martial arts, abandoning forms and kata and even names. He said this in his last book. A lot of people thought that he was on drugs when he wrote his last book. He might have been on painkillers, but I think it was more of the fact that he was mentally and spiritually lucid. He went from a point of having incredible physical powers to being bedridden and having a broken back and not knowing what his future would be, and really just examining everything in life, in fighting, in art, in philosophy, and ultimately, of course, the triads killed him for teaching Kung Fu, for sharing his art to the modern world. That's really the truth of the matter, and I don't think anybody can argue it if you've heard what I've heard from the people who you heard from. So anyways, leaving all that beside, something I'm obviously very emotional about, let's talk about Jeet Kune, the art of the intercepting fist. The most brilliant thing about it isn't the back fist, it isn't the fast hands and the fact that it evolved from this Wing Chun type system. The most brilliant thing about it is that Jeet Kune is an art that examines itself philosophically on a very honest level and says, adapt this art. If we're doing it this way, but you find this way is better, then do it the other way. Adapt and use what is effective and what is successful, and abandon that which does not serve you. So Grandmaster Bruce Lee was just so enamored with letting go of these big flowery forms and names and traditions and doing what we're doing now, pressure testing this stuff. That's why he invented these gloves. They're like boxing gloves, but with open fingers, so you can grapple with them. These are brilliant, and they were created by Grandmaster Bruce Lee, who was the ultimate martial artist, who was about pressure testing and reality and getting rid of this, McNonsense and commercialized martial arts and phony traditions and forms and claims and so forth. He was such a great realist in martial arts. So everything that we stand on now in terms of enjoying these arts, in terms of creating cultures around them, creating even paradigms of morality behind them, like sportsmanship and everything that comes with it, being a good person, being a good competitor, a good athlete. This is all stuff that was built on this traditional knowledge that came from Grandmaster Bruce Lee and Wing Chun and the art that he invented, Jeet Kune, the art of the intercepting fist. So, what can we say about art of the intercepting fist, Jeet Kune? Like I always say, it starts from this opening posture. It's not like these traditional arts, like Wing Chun, which it evolved from, which comes from Si Pin Ma, this horse stance. Grandmaster Bruce Lee loved the fact that it was so scientific, so predicated on these exact points in the center line and so forth. But he wanted to create a modern martial art that would actually work well against boxers and kickboxers and karateka who sparred and competed, who had really excellent pressure-tested skills. And that was the idea of Jeet Kune Do. Marry the science of traditional martial arts with the practicality of what we've learned from modern sport combat, which can't be denied, what we've learned from boxing and kickboxing and karate and so forth. So first and foremost, we have the main blocking weapon in Jeet Kune Do, which is the preemptive strike. But after that, of course, it's this shoulder. It's being able to hide behind that shoulder and pinch this shoulder and this front hand together, which creates an incredible strong guard. And you can throw hard punches here, crosses, hooks, straight punches from either hand, but they will not land because this is a very tight guard, very tight reinforced guard. And of course, from there, we can turn that into a left hook block. Naturally, our chin is exposed. I'm gonna go this way so you can see. Our weapon is still in the same place. Look at that, our lead weapon is still in the exact same place, but look what's happening to our targets. Going from this normal stance where our targets are right here, right within range, totally getting rid of that chin target now, just through this little shoulder lean here. You can no longer hit the chin. Now all you have is that secondary target, the temple, the top of the head area, which is really hard to affect a knockout in. You gotta be really, really precise and strong. And even there, it's not gonna drop somebody like right here. You know, you're gonna concuss them, but you have to use a lot of force, a lot more than you would right here. So my number one point is covered. And this point is, look how much farther away it is without having sacrificed any of this distance. So we're taking away the targets, yet that offensive hand is even in a better position to strike. It's almost halfway in between, I call it that long Russian guard, which we do out of a rhythm, and kind of just like the tight Mexican guard or, you know, just Western boxing. Halfway in between that is this Jeet Kune Do guard, this kind of half extended fist. It's not fully extended, so we're not open to the counter. And it's not in here like the peekaboo style, so we're not just really limited to overhands and hooks as far as our power weapons. The Jeet Kune Do power weapons rely on these extended spearing fingers to the throat, which is a really lethal knockout shot that people don't talk about, or these permanently damaging, the eye gouge, non-telegraphic eye gouge. And it's like a groin shot in MMA. It's forbidden because it's so damaging. It's so detrimental to the human health that it would literally, it can really, I don't want to say the extent that it can hurt somebody, but permanently. These are points that can easily permanently injure somebody, which is why we avoid them in sport combat and we obsess about them in self-defense. I mean, thumbs to the eyes, these are as vital as a cross is to boxing. The same way a boxer is gonna practice his cross or his hook for hours a day, the Jeet Kune Do guy will practice his finger techniques, his finger training, conditioning his fingertips so that they don't hurt when they hit a solid object, so that they can actually be used as a weapon. So it's a unique martial art. It's a dirty martial art in that it's not about fair fighting and putting the gloves on. It's about tearing, gouging, breaking, shattering. It's about a situation in which you need to potentially end the other person's life with your bare hands and being psychologically and physically and tactically ready to do so. So again, coming out of this Jeet Kune Do stance, we have the idea of non-telegraphic weapons. And the thing which is so unique about this This idea of non-telegraphic motion in Jeet Kune Do is that unlike other martial arts where the body moves as one unit, or it's even guided by the waist moving first, in Jeet Kune Do, the hand moves first until it's too late and you can't hold the strike back anymore. And then the body moves in. So using that motion where the hand is actually moving first until you push off the rear foot and move with the hip at the point where the hand almost reaches them. That is the unique essence of non-telegraphic motion created and invented through the system of Jeet Kune Do. Doesn't have as much power as this type of whole body motion, which is guided by the core, guided by the shoulders. But non-telegraphic motion will get there a lot quicker, and it's almost impossible to see in the heat of combat. Because unlike telegraphic motion, think about it, a right cross. A boxer's gonna see that little raise, that little motion, that little impetus for motion. A good trained fighter, MMA fighter, Muay Thai guy, they're gonna know that a punch is coming when they see that motion. That's why we practice in Jeet Kune Do in front of a mirror, motionless, to get that explosion without telling, without moving our facial features, without changing our expression, without changing our body position before the weapon launches. Very specific, precise art, and it's a very, very sweet science. And that just like boxing, there's a technical brilliance to it, literally, not figuratively, literally feels sweet. That's the feeling you can describe when you're doing the technique right, moving with structure instead of muscular force, moving the entire body as one unit, and eventually, of course, moving from the inner core, guiding everything from this inner core. So, roots of Jun Fan are, of course, Si Pim Ma, Wing Chun, which is snake and crane and tiger style, this tearing, gouging, effective kung fu. And of course, Grandmaster Bruce Lee said, unlike boxing, where you have your strong side backward, in Jeet Kune Do, you're going to have your strong side forward.